So, you all have heard a little secret that Final Fantasy is making a card game. Just kidding! It's going to be an our card game, the one that we made. Magic the Gathering has a Final Fantasy card set coming out, and with it, like every other set, they're producing some pre-constructed commander decks. And guess what? Just for you, YouTube. Just for little bitty you. We're going to go through each of the decks with a bit of brevity and tell you about what cards in them are the most interesting and what we would change.
Sure, I think so. So we're looking to aim to highlight the all-stars, but let's start with what the commander does. Start with Mardu.
Yeah.
The commander for Mardu, boys and girls at home, is fantastic. Basically, Terra, Herald of Hope says, at the beginning of combat on your turn, mill 2, then Terra gains flying, which is already really cool for a 3-costed 3/3.
Oh yeah.
But then also, when Terra deals combat damage, which remember she has flying, you can pay 2, and when you do, return target creature with power 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. It literally does everything.
Yeah. It does all of the things that you needed to and more, and I would even say that the sub-commander, the secondary commander, is as interesting, if not more. When it enters, discard any number of cards and draw that many +1, kind of like a self-wheel effect, which is really nice. And then whenever one or more creatures you control enter, if one of them entered from the graveyard or is cast from the graveyard, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control.
Kind of cool.
So the deck, as it stands, sort of has a low end of play Terra, get a bunch of guys into your graveyard, and then play a bunch of 3 attack or less creatures that flood, or you can switch to an end game of just playing a bunch of big bombs. They have things like Sun Titan and Combustible Gear Hulk that I think are really 2 super mainstay creatures in that sort of deck, that sort of high top end.
Sure. I prefer Terra. I think Terra does all the stuff that I want, and it's kind of funny because the supporting commander does the effect that I want to highlight here. This deck is full of red cards that say discard cards, draw cards.
Yeah.
And those kinds of cards are so important for Reanimator because, yeah, they help you filter out your lands, but sometimes you just need your Sun Titan in the damn graveyard. And so discard 2, draw 2 becomes, uh-oh, here they come.
Yeah, another all-star that I see in the deck, not only for this deck, but just decks in general, is Bannon, Returner's Leader. He says that once on each of your turns, you can cast a creature spell from among cards in your graveyard that were put there from anywhere this turn, and then whenever you attack, you can pay 1, discard a card, and draw a card. That sort of selection is really cool.
Yep.
And it has the level of insurance of having things in your graveyard to cast that a lot of decks would like.
Yeah, and at a minimum, look, Terra will just mill you 2, and you can hope. And we'll get into this in a second, but the number of creatures in this deck is not the best.
Yeah.
So it's you need to up the odds a little bit.
So when we're talking about upping the odds, there are some auto includes that you should be purchasing and putting into the deck. Karmic Guide will just reanimate any creature, and he's 2 attack. There's no reason not to add him. There's creatures like Stitcher's Supplier, which just increases your mill. And then some newer cards that I think that you should add. Alesha, who laughs at fate, just a 2-power creature that can reanimate. And Sister Hospitaller, a undersung card from the Warhammer set. It's a 6-mana 3/2 that just reanimates any creature onto the battlefield.
Oh, cool. So we get to do the Karmic Guide effect again.
Yeah.
Well, for me, when I look at this deck, I want to play long, do-nothing combo. And yeah, those cards are all good and will win you the game. But who wants to do that when you could stall 20 turns and cast Rise of the Dark Realms?
Oh, yeah.
Because that's in the deck. I'm so excited about it.
No, super huge.
But for me, Drew's on the right plot. I think that you need to add more creatures that do something that can be reanimated by your 3-power or less. Master of Cruelties comes to mind. That's the funniest creature in Magic, in my opinion. But otherwise, well said.
Also, Unstoppable Slasher.
Oh, yeah.
Standard mainstay can go in really easily. There are a lot of cards in the deck that aren't creatures that you can take out, but some non-creatures that you can put in. I mean, Faithless Looting is an auto-include. Ripples of Undeath helps you just burn through your whole deck, especially with Bannon and Terra to help get those things back.
Sure.
And then Buried Alive is basically a necessity in any reanimation deck. It just builds consistency that you would love to see.
Yeah, you could go a lot of ways with this deck. You could even play every other red, discard 2, draw 2, Tormenting Voice comes to mind, or even Cathartic Pyre or things like that are very similar.
Oh yeah.
So cool deck though, really cool.
The deck is already pretty well set up for success.
On to the next one.
Nothing else to say.
It is.
Yeah. What do we have coming up next?
I believe it's Naya.
Oh, why do you go in with the color combination? Let's talk about Cloud, ex-soldier.
Yeah, but well, there's a whole thing. Like, was he ever really in soldier? Kind of, but not. It's like it's misleading. Never mind. He's a 5-mana 4/4, which neither of those numbers are 7, which is weird. Because he's from Final Fantasy VII, the best Final Fantasy that ever existed, other than maybe Tactics Advanced. I'll fight you in the comments. He's a hasting 4/4, so cool.
Yep.
And when he enters, attach an equipment you control to him. Cool. He's the sword guy, right? He wants to fight. He's a Voltron guy.
Yep.
When he attacks, draw a card for each equipped attacking creature. So he could go wide. Then, if Cloud has power 7 or greater, create 2 treasure tokens.
Yep.
That's a lot to cook.
So I really like the idea that he is a deck that runs almost an equal amount of creatures and equipment because he equips to himself and provides draw, but also can equip to other creatures and they can handle things. I'm really liking this deck a lot.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, this deck has 25 creatures, and the majority of them are legendary. I mean, there are a bunch of bangers in here.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Some standouts from the deck. I mean, how can I not bring up the Buster Sword? This is such a perfect fantasy fulfillment card, and a lot of the cards from the set are really, really good at stuff like this. It is +3/+2, so it gets into the 7 number, which, wow, it's his number. And whenever you deal combat damage, you draw a card and you can cast a spell from your hand for free. It is exactly what the Buster Sword does. It's a combo piece in the game, and man, you love to see it like that in here.
Except they didn't put that in the deck. You know that, right?
Oh no!
It's not in this deck. It is the first card that I would add for sure.
Yeah, they're forcing you to buy it.
How dare you, first of all. And second of all, Hero's Blade is in the deck. That's the one that the Buster Sword art.
Yeah.
Put the Buster Sword in that. Put the Buster Sword in the bag.
Little bro, come on.
Yeah, I agree. You're on the right track, which, number one, in my opinion, upgrade the equipment. There's some good ones in here, like Sword of the Animus for sure.
Yeah.
And there's Colossus Hammer is funny, right? But you got room. Add the Buster Sword, throw in any number of swords.
Yeah.
The sky is your limit.
Smaller standard card that I want to bring up that I think a lot of people are going to love building. Barret Avalanche Leader.
Oh, yeah, Barret's cool.
Every time you, whenever an equipment enters, you make a 2/2 Rebel, and then at combat you can attach them.
Equipment go wide.
Yeah,
super
equipment
cool.
go wide is super interesting, and I feel like whenever you have your commander Cloud out and Barret, man, you are just gonna go absolutely bananas.
Yeah, I could yap forever about Final Fantasy VII, and in fact I have, and I will continue to do so, as you can tell behind me. But two things. One, we built this entire deck from scratch on stream. There's a VOD of that, but I'll be posting a video with all the Final Fantasy VII commanders, including this one, so let me keep it brief. My favorite cards in these decks, because Voltron is very weak to spot removal, are things like Holy, because that protects your stuff, and I think that is a fantastic include. For me, I would add Heroic Interventions, I'd add your Tameo Safekeepings.
Yeah, Teferi's Protection.
Teferi's Protection.
What's the 1/1 protection spell? I think from Kamigawa.
I think you're talking. What color is it? Green.
It's green. Yeah. No, it's not from Kamigawa. It's something else.
There's a billion of them.
Yeah.
There's Overprotect. There's like I said, Tameo Safekeeping. There's Blacksmith Skill.
Putting them in is the thing that's going to turn this deck from oh man, you killed my commander, so now I have to wait a bunch, into okay, I'm going to represent a threat consistently.
Yep.
Brings the deck, I would say, from a 3 to a 4 if we wanted to put it on a scale.
Yeah, and then the other thing this deck obviously needs is your mono white equipment package, your SRAMs, your Pure Steel Paladin, which actually that one's in.
Forge Anew, Stoneforge Mystic,
stuff
like that is going to make it really good to just pilot. It makes things run as smoothly as possible.
But out the door, if you're looking to buy a precon, it's filled with legendary creatures to build off of, equipments that will go in a lot of decks, and interaction that you'll play in all these colors.
Yeah. I think that the only thing that this deck could really use more of is card draw. And maybe that's just because I feel like it needs card draw. But, it's something that I feel like would just make, if you're already putting in protection and you already have the equipments and creatures, just try and squeeze in, SRAM again is maybe the most important thing. If you have the budget for an Esper Sentinel, he fits in. I mean, I know he fits into every single white deck in all of these.
Cheap creatures are good and important because cards like Clever Concealment exist, which, by the way, the Final Fantasy VII art is literally unbelievable, but it has Convoke, so you want to have some little guys out and protect your stuff.
Yeah. Oh my god, and last but not least, inventory management. Inventory
management is
goes
perfect
so
card.
hard.
That's so good. On to the next one.
On to the next one.
All right, I think that's Tidus.
Oh, Tidus.
What do you think of this card?
So Tidus is someone who messes around with a lot of +1/+1 counters, draws cards, proliferates. He does everything that you kind of would want. And I think that putting counters on stuff, the last time that we saw a commander that did that, wasn't that from the Rhino from Capenna?
Oh yeah, the shield guy?
Yeah, the Bant shield guy.
Yeah, interesting.
I think that the commander is very interesting. I like the idea. Well, let me be honest with my spirit and my soul. I want to build a deck that makes all of the counters that aren't 1/1 counters.
Yeah.
It just does those.
Well, you can, because Tidus is a 3-mana 3/3 in Bant that says at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may move a counter, so any, from target creature you control onto a second target creature you control. So any
I
counter,
really wish I was
2
replacing
creatures.
finality counters onto my opponent's creatures. It feels so funny.
That would be good.
I'll just proliferate them on mine.
He also has Cheer. Whenever one or more creatures you control with counters on them deal combat damage, you may draw a card and proliferate, but do this only once per turn.
Yeah.
So we may have goofed that in a game. But we never make misplays here, except for on days that end in Y.
Yeah. Once per turn is the thing that is always making everybody sad, but you know what? Sometimes you have to
I get it though, because he's only 3 mana and he already does a lot of things. Now, they're really specific things, but I think you're cooking with your other counters, Tribal.
Yeah, I really like the idea of doing that, or just spamming a bunch of proliferate. Before we move too far in, I want to talk about some highlights of the deck. Sphere Grid is a card that I feel like is going to be going into a bunch of different decks. Obviously, it's a 1/1 counter specific, but like, man, creatures you control have 1/1 counters, have reach and trample.
Yeah, but it also
Bristly
puts
Bill,
them on.
Good.
That's true. It puts them on by itself. Like there's no, with a lot of cards like this, you need setup and payoff. This is both setup and payoff.
Yeah. Also, protection magic, put 3 shield counters. Come on. Shield counters were already the most disgusting thing in the world, and now you can proliferate and then move them. Like, be so fucking for real.
Yeah. And you know what cards are really good, in my opinion, is cards that can help you gain incremental advantage while also like not costing you anything. Summoner Sending. It's 2 mana at the beginning of end step. You may exile a creature card from a graveyard, so it's already graveyard or hate.
Yeah.
And then if you do, you make a 1/1 spirit. Put a 1/1 counter on it if the creature is 4 mana or greater. So it's 2 mana, and you get to eat your opponent's scariest graveyard cards
So
and
good.
make guys every turn.
Yeah.
Okay.
When it comes to playing a deck like this, the win condition is really just making a board
Yeah.
so big and durable that people kind of just give up. And I think that things that will help you do that are cards like Tekethal, which is just, if you proliferate again.
Yeah, Tekethal's cool.
And then cards like Arwen, Mortal Queen. She gets an indestructible counter. You can proliferate it and move it around and just give people a bunch of indestructible counters. So absurd. And then the classic, multiple counters like Hardened Scales and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to highlight. Is Hardened Scales is a big winner here. The moving the counters 1 time a turn and proliferating 1 time a turn, it will get you there. It's a certainty, but slowly. You want your Hardened Scales to double this effect basically, and then you want your Branching Evolutions. That's what I would add here. Branching Evolutions, those kinds of enchantments that are going to say double, double, double.
Yeah.
And suddenly 1 becomes 2, which becomes 4, and then if you're feeling really crazy, you're getting to 8. The 1-time effect per turn is looking a lot different at that point.
Yeah. By the way, a small standout card for me already in the deck, Chocobo Knights. Seems like it's going into everything, right? Any creature that has counters has double strike. Feels pretty good. Maybe I'm overstating it, but like double strike is such a strong effect, and to have it on a 4 mana permanent feels so gross.
Well, you're not far off, because the reason that it feels so good is that counters are accessible so easily in any number of decks.
Yeah.
Especially if you put cards like Walking Ballista into a precon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which by the way, they did do, and it is
wild.
in this precon.
Yeah. Some cards that need to go in or stay in, I don't remember the list super well. Evolution Sage is kind of a necessity. Kami of Whispered Hopes is also incredible.
All those +1/+1 guys.
Yeah,
all those
just
guys.
so good. And then why not throw a bunch of the other commanders in there? Throw in the Rhino that does shield counter stuff. Throw in Falco Spara. Like, why not?
Sure.
Just go for it.
Yeah, counters are flexible. In this deck, I think you're going to want to try to cheat the numbers up to counter faster, whether that's more proliferates or whether there's enchantments. But otherwise, I think it's a very solid strategy of just making guys that are basically free or cheap, and then making them huge.
Yeah. Another secret card that has been unseen for a while, but is going to have a tiny buff in this deck is Danny Pink. He's a Doctor Who mono blue counters card who had nowhere to live, and now he does. Your creatures, when they get counters, now draw you cards. Who could have asked for anything better?
That's pretty cool. I think also, if you're going the blue route, I think Herald of Secret Streams is 1/1 counter.
Oh
creatures
yeah,
can't be blocked.
Yes. Wow.
Counters are they're not fair. They seem like they're fair, but they're not. Sorry, what were we saying?
I think that we were thinking about moving on to the next.
I think we're thinking about moving on to the next one. That sounds good.
The
What
last
deck is it?
deck.
Oh yeah.
We're moving on to Yshtola.
Cat girls.
I know, they just get everything that they want. Isn't that the case?
Yeah, I think so too.
And here's the sad part. They deserve it.
Yep.
Why would you play Yshtola when you can play the new Italian brain rot commander, Papalimo Totolimo?
Well, I'll tell you what, because it's 4 mana in Esper, which, hey, cheaper commanders are always good. I feel like all the Esper bangers are like 6, 7, 8. But moving on, 4 mana 2/4 with Vigilance. At the beginning of each end step, if a player lost 4 or more life this turn, you may draw a card. So it goes all the way around.
Yeah.
And whenever you cast a non-creature spell of value 3 or greater, Yshtola deals 2 damage to each opponent and you gain 2 life. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Where are you going with this?
I am liking the idea of moving this deck away from dealing damage to my opponents and more on the self-damage and self-life gain strategy. And then hoping that my counter spells can protect my commander enough that it lasts. I see a lot of people kind of crafting this as a creature-centric deck, and I'm not crazy about that.
Is your plan to play like black cards that say pay life?
Things like Snuff Out, things like Dismember.
Yeah, or like Doom Whisperers, like pay 2 life, surveil 2.
Yes.
You can keep doing that.
Exactly
like that.
right.
That's cool.
And then life gain over and over again. Also just staples that help you protect your stuff and big non-creature spells for funsies.
That makes sense. One thing that I love that is the new kind of like Black Mage mechanic. So we've seen like Black Mage's Rod, and then there's like Circle of Power.
Yes.
All of that is like, they're like Gutter Snipe, but slightly less damage, but non-creature as opposed to Instants and Sorcery. And in Esper, my opinion, the coolest bangers to play is Auras. Because 3 mana auras are all life loss. So
that's
a
super
simple
true.
card like, those like Pacifism 3 mana auras, stop your creature from attacking, also will give your table a full suck.
Yes.
So I think there's plenty of really, really cool auras to play, especially in the history of Esper, that you just put an exactly 3 cost in, and then if you cast 2, you end up drawing a card.
Also, just the deck already has so much gas in it. The deck has an offer you can't refuse.
I know, isn't that crazy?
Like, what were they thinking?
I don't know, man.
I love all the job select cards, even though I think that they don't super fit in. I still love it. I joked, but Papalimo Totolimo is a card that synergizes very well with the deck, and Emmett Selch of the 3rd seat, also a great card. Casting cards from your graveyard and making your opponents lose life, it's like so good.
So, a little light on the job mechanic. I believe that this is the Final Fantasy XIV deck, which is the big MMO that's very, very popular.
Of course.
That's why I think the job select cards are in here, because it's part of the game.
Of course.
So, generally, I don't think we talked about this at this point, all of the decks have felt like they've leaned pretty well on the theming and pretty well on the flavor. I can't speak to 10, I never played it. I will play it soon, especially on stream. But when Matt saw the deck, known 10 fanboy, he goes, oh, he can cheer. And I was like, cool, I guess. And he's like, that's the first ability he learns. It's like the thing he does.
Wow.
I was like, oh, okay, that's really cool to see.
Yeah. And as always, whenever I see a blue commander that has a persistent effect that has some way of winning the game, quantum misalignment, just making more and then copying and copying and copying. I fucking love copying legendary creatures, especially ones like Yshtola.
Yeah,
and look, if the side effect of having a bunch of cat girls around is, that's just, it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
Hey, I understand. If you're a new player who's getting into Magic and you're trying to find decks that you can pivot out of at some point, this deck features some really awesome removal, like Lethal Scheme, Swords to Plowshares, Snuff Out, like you were saying earlier, Cleansing Nova board wipe, Crux of Fate board wipe, and then there's a bunch of like Exsanguinate, which is a finisher in any black deck, and a bunch of like classic value cards. This is a really good one to pick up, I think, if you want to kind of start your collection.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Well, I'm pretty happy with these decks overall.
Look, if I have learned anything, ever since before Outlaws of Thunder Junction, Wizards has tried to make the precons sort of understated, and then after Outlaws, they said, you know what? Let's just put a bunch of staples in it, and especially with the Universes Beyond, how about we print 50 legendary creatures that just all do a bunch of different stuff because you want to play your favorite character from your IP. Sometimes it's frustrating, but man, they really cooked. They really cooked.
It does feel like in the era you're talking about, every deck feels like the Avengers team up, but in the universe we're in. And look, I get that some Magic fans will hate it, but if you're a fan of Final Fantasy, this is right on flavor for you. If you're just a Magic fan, there's good cards. Now, granted, they continue to make new bangers for every single set, but they're in here and they're great.
And once they make the Borderlands set, I'm gonna be dead broke. But man, I'm gonna have a commander for every single one of them.
Is that your hot take on the next IP that's coming out?
No, I don't think that'll ever.
Because I think obviously it's gonna be Naruto. That's what I think.
Holy fuck! If they build Naruto into this game, that would make me lose my mind.
I've already cooked a bunch of lands for it. Wizards, call me. I'm good. Well, see, it's like the Leaf Village, and you play it, and your ninjas get like a +1/+1. It's a whole thing. What were we doing here? I don't remember, man. I don't remember.
I think we've gone through all the commanders.
Yeah.
And we'd love to hear if we missed anything that's super glaring.
Oh, sure.
And man, which of these decks is your favorite? I'm an Esper baby, so I can't help but like Yshtola.
If you took all the flavor off the cards, probably Yshtola. The Mardu one operates in a realm that is like unseen.
That one's so cool.
It's
I
unbelievable.
love that one.
I think it's really cool. Mardu Reanimator has always been a thing, but stapling all the effects onto one card is insane.
Holy fuck! How did you not put Delny into your Mardu deck? Go back, rewind this video, put Delny into it.
He likes Delny, but obviously Cloud and Tifa.
Yeah, how could you be?
I don't, Hey, this was great. Thank you so much for joining us. And
go play some Final Fantasy.
Yeah, go play some Final Fantasy.
In whatever format you wish.
Absolutely. And check out, I'll put my Archidekt below because I've already built every Final Fantasy commander that's in 7, specifically 7. I almost made a goof there. But thank you so much for joining us, and bye.
Bye.